In the grand palaces of ancient China, amidst the opulent chambers and sprawling courtyards, there existed a unique and often overlooked facet of imperial life, the male concubines of emperors. Now, when we talk about ancient Chinese concubines, our thoughts immediately jump to the female concubines. They are the ones who are most commonly portrayed in movies or TV shows. And it's true that the majority of the emperor's harems were made up of women. Believe it or not, there were also men in there too. Now, these men were not as numerous as the women, but they were still quite important in their own way. So today, let us step into the fascinating world of ancient Chinese male concubines and explore their lesser-known roles and stories. In ancient China, the practice of having both male and female concubines was a part of a larger system of obtaining partners outside of marriage, while the number of male concubines in comparison to female concubines was relatively small. Their presence was significant in various dynasties throughout Chinese history. During the Han Dynasty, the Tang Dynasty, or the Zhou Dynasty, for instance, emperors often kept a select group of young men, sometimes referred to as favorites or court attendants, to serve as their companions and partners. The selection process for male concubines was a meticulous one. The candidates, typically young men of noble birth, were chosen for their physical beauty, charm, and talents in areas like music, poetry, or calligraphy. They were brought to the imperial palace, where they received rigorous training to ensure they met the standards of the imperial court. Once accepted, they were given new names to signify their elevated status and were bestowed upon the emperor as his companions. Unlike their female counterparts, the roles of male concubines were less formalized. They were expected to provide the emperor with companionship and engage in activities that entertained him, whether it was composing poetry together, painting, playing music, or simply engaging in intellectual discussions. These shared activities were meant to create a bond between the concubine and the emperor. However, it is important to note that while the relationship between the emperor and his male concubines might have been based on companionship and shared interests, it wasn't always viewed favorably by society at large. The idea of homosexuality was not widely accepted, and the presence of male concubines in the imperial court often stirred controversy and gossip. Despite this, many emperors continued to keep male concubines, perhaps because of the very exclusivity and illicitness of the relationship. It offered a different kind of intimacy and companionship that was distinct from the more formal relationship the emperor had with his female concubines. These men were generally well-educated and accomplished. They were not just passive companions, but active participants in the emperor's life. They would read to him, write for him, and even travel with him. Sometimes they were given positions in the imperial court, allowing them to wield some power and influence. There are instances of male concubines becoming influential figures, like Dong Shan during the Han Dynasty. He was an accomplished individual, skilled in both civil and military matters. He became the de facto ruler during the reign of Emperor Ling, showcasing the potential influence male concubines could have in the right circumstances. But the life of a male concubine was not without its challenges. Living in the imperial palace meant being constantly under scrutiny, not just from the emperor, but also from the officials and advisors who had an eye on the powerful position of the concubine. They were in a constant struggle to maintain their status, needing to balance the expectations of the emperor with the limitations set by the court officials. As the saying goes, those who gain the emperor's favor will gain the world, but those who lose it will lose everything. This was particularly true for male concubines. If the emperor's favor waned, or if the political winds shifted, they could find themselves out of favor quickly, sometimes even facing exile or execution. In conclusion, the male concubines of ancient Chinese emperors offer us a glimpse into a lesser-known aspect of Chinese history. These men, often overlooked in favor of the more numerous female concubines, played a unique role in the imperial court. They were companions, entertainers, and sometimes even advisors, providing a different kind of intimacy and perspective to the emperors they served. Their stories remind us that history is full of complexities, and that even in the most opulent and privileged of settings, the human experience is filled with ambition, love, loss, and the constant struggle for power and acceptance. If you enjoyed this episode and want to learn more about similar topics, be sure to check out other videos. Thank you for watching Miss Tex, and I'll see you next time.